They're super
What
fun.
up? What up? Jordan. So back. How are you feeling, Gozo?
And then Trey's going to help me linger and be louder. All right. Okay, here we go. It's the last regular season game. Does it feel any different now that you're here at the end of the season, or it's just another game?
Yeah, I think it's been a long season. We've played probably the most games that I've ever been a part of, given Open Cup and Leagues Cup, and so I think we're in a good way. I think there's you use the regular season to figure out who you are as a group, the areas that you need to continue to work on, and that hasn't changed to this moment. I think now it's about going in with the right mentality, knowing that you're going to be in some dogfights, and making sure that you have all the tools to be able to respond in those difficult moments.
Do you pick a starting 11 a little later in a week when guys are flying back from international duty?
Absolutely. All the guys haven't played a game yet, so their second game in international. So you really wait to see how they come on arrival, and making sure that you're not putting them in a position to play a game that might compromise them for the playoffs. So this week we'll wait until everyone gets in, everyone's on the ground, and then assess the group. But as far as the planning and the way we want to go, as far as the shape, I think that's solidified. But it's now just waiting to see which players are available for the game.
As a player, did you ever lie to your coach about your health?
Oftentimes. Again, I think you, especially in teams that are really competitive, as ours is, you want to be on the field at every moment, and so that's where I think data becomes a really good resource to fall back on, and see how many minutes you've logged in the last month, what it looks like subjectively with the eye in your performances, and then from there make the best decision for the group. But yeah, I mean, everyone wants to be on the field, and unfortunately we can only put 11. So,
as a parent, like, one of my kids might tell me something that wasn't 100% true, and I knew when it was coming out of their mouth. Like, I literally used that line decades ago when I was your age. Do you look at your players and get the same thing?
No, because I think that the mind can override a lot of physical issues. I think whether you're injured, there's certain thresholds that different players have that can override the pain, and so I think it's really knowing the individual and then using history as a predictor of the future.
You've seen Colorado multiple times this year. This will be your fourth game with them, I think. How much have they changed, and how much do you expect them to be different in the finale? Yeah,
well, I think if there's one game that is meaningful for them being out of the playoffs, it's playing against us and playing spoiler. So I think for us, again, it's really about what we want to take from the game in prep for the playoffs, which, again, the most important thing for me is getting a good result, and that's a win or a draw where we're playing extremely well. And I think it's all about that type of prep. So I'd say that's the first part. The second part is just fine-tuning the last bit of relationships with players and figuring out what complement of players work best in whatever setup that we're going in. And so I think there's multiple aspects of this game that are really important for us heading into the playoffs. But I think the biggest one is winning the game.
You always want to learn and adapt. You've talked about the whole process. That was quite the unusual lineup and substitution pattern for the last game. What did you learn doing that?
Well, again, I think one of the things is that in the last couple of games we've had some issues defensively where we're getting behind the game, and every game is going to be different, right? We got a red card against SKC. In this game, we conceded 2 goals when I thought we started the game really bright in transition, and so those are some things that we learned, and we've got to tighten up and heading into Colorado. But again, the other part I learned was the mentality to be down and still fight your way into the game without conceding that third, and that's going to pay huge dividends. The SKC game, LA game, coming from behind and staying in the game. And so if we can correct the getting behind in those moments that I feel like we were under control but didn't handle them the right way, and then on top of that, staying games with a mindset, I feel like we'll be in the right headspace to be able to confront anyone in the playoffs. And then the last part is, a couple guys got their debuts, which is always fun to see. And I don't think they would have, necessarily been in that position had we not had all these different things. So I think like everything in life, there's silver lining, and I think the silver lining in this match was for Gozo and Axel to get their debut.
You've said direct, play direct so many times this year. I really don't see anything else anymore. You've completely warped my vision of the game now. And when I look at that game, again, I see 30 and 40-yard passes leading to goals. And they're not all the same. Some of the passes look more aggressive. Some of them were 30 yards, but it looked like a simple ball to play. Do you take those and constantly still, at this point, reinforce guys? There's 4 goals, and look how many of them came from playing direct.
Right. No, I think that's, again, I think in the modern game, everyone wants to build from the back and break lines, right? And I think what we always talk about is always assessing what space are they willing to give you? Is it between the lines or is it behind the line? And so it's not so much playing direct because that's the way we want to do it. It's because it's what the game really offers. And so to be able to decipher in real time, you know, where the space is, because what you're really trying to do is take advantage of space when you have the ball. And I think in the last couple games we've done a really good job of exploiting the spaces that are available, which is behind. And even if we don't get that ball, we pick up second balls, and now we're playing in our opponent's half the field, and so you're gaining territory. So it's almost like we've got to rewire our brains from the old Barcelona where it's 180 passes to get the goal, which is a fantastic style of play, but be a bit more pragmatic as to how we want to do things so that you can be more efficient with your energy, you can be more dangerous in the attack. And the other part too is that it creates transition moments where I think we have a good transition team going forward. We've just got to be a little bit better in transition to defend, because there's going to be times where that 30-yard ball gets picked off and the lines aren't close enough to be able to defend it.
Maybe you haven't warped. You just warped is wrong. I really regret it.
To begin with.
It was warped to begin with. Yeah.
Pablo, a couple questions. One real quick on Diego Luna. I'm not a guy that loves the hype for the young kids, and he's obviously been surrounded by that. But Saturday, for me, it really seemed like things slowed down for him, and he was able to dictate range and tempo and things that we just hadn't seen from him before. Am I accurate in that?
No, I think so. Again, I think when we talk about development for younger players, I think all those come at different times for different players. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that I think the catalyst for him in this game was getting pulled in 30 seconds because of the adjustment.
Sure.
Right? And so with every progress, there's a setback prior to any progress. And that's what a lot of people don't want to talk about with younger players, is that there's got to be an impetus for a change in behavior, for not necessarily a change in behavior, for a change in the status within the group, change for an opportunity that you're going to take with a different type of mentality than you had in the past. And so I think, you know, he had a really good game, and exactly right, he was able to control the tempo, and the most important thing for me was that he was able to contribute with the goal. And I think that at the end of the day, in that position, you got to have goals and assists, and that's something that we've been talking, be a bit more selfish in those areas to shoot, not just to dribble. And so just, again, another notch in his cap as far as his progress, but it was great to see.
I know we always ask, and we've learned that obviously you don't want to look past the next 90 minutes, but going back to Colorado, where we've had success already this year, albeit it was way back in May, and just the season as a whole, using 31 players and 42 games and all that kind of stuff, do you learn by looking back, like kind of on a macro level as opposed to looking ahead?
I'd say yes and no. You know, I think there's always so many moments and variables throughout a season, and like the two most obvious ones now is that Pablo went out after Leagues Cup, and Chicho went out after the SKC game, or during the SKC game. And so I think that you're constantly in a state of flux as a group, and trying to find out, okay, so Chicho was our point man, and everything kind of in the last 15 yards of the field went to Chicho. So he's not there. So now we have to adapt again, and we have to reinvent ourselves again. And so that's why I always talk about mentality with the group, because that is the one thing that you can control. All these other external forces, people getting injured, people in and out, whilst they affect the group, it's how much do you want to let it affect you. And the more you know, prepared we are from a mindset, we're able to adapt given and utilizing Ando's strengths, utilizing Luna's strengths to make up for the guys that, you know, that have been gone. So I think that for me is, you know, looking back is, in that stretch of games where we were really good, there was a bunch of different players playing, and it didn't matter who played, we were still getting results. And so I'll take that in particular because, again, the individual players make such a difference to the way we want to play, but it's really important that the players that step in have the same mindset and are willing to do the work that is required.